Hi, and welcome back to the Religion of Human Nature podcast. Today, we're talking about digging deep, and I have two people who are, I would say, experts on this topic for different reasons, but both in sort of the fitness and athletic field. The first is Jen Widerstrom, who is a trainer extraordinaire. You might know her from The Biggest Loser, from her very popular Instagram and social media accounts, and many, many other projects. I actually found her on my favorite vignette, and I told her this, where she was training Conan O'Brien and Kevin Hart. And I laugh. I watch it all the time. I laugh so hard. It is like the funniest episode. Jen, how are you? Thanks for being
Hi. I wish I could get you the tape from the cutting room floor. We shot for 2 hours. I mean, and all I knew is I was gonna work with Conan O'Brien, and I'll keep the story short. But I'm a big fan of Conan. I watch the show all the time. Loved him. And then they kept talking about this Kevin guy. Like, well, Kevin's gonna be there. I'm like, guys, wait, hold on. If you're going to throw somebody else at me, I need to know what their body's going through. Like, I'm taking this seriously. And they're like, it's Kevin Hart. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to wrangle these guys? And they were like, you are the trainer. You're going to work them out. You're going to be tough. And then I feel like they went and said, okay, don't listen to a word she says, because it was bananas. And I mean, at one point, Conan was forcing my hand to check his femoral artery for his pulse. I was like, I'm useless now. So anyway, Lenny, you've got to watch it if you haven't seen it. It's pretty funny.
I will. I'll now that you talked about it,
Oh, it
absolutely.
was it was hilarious, and both gentlemen, wonderful people. But like, I lost it.
they're a great comedic duo. And you may also, and you should know if you watch the Olympics, my other guest, Lenny Krazelberg, a Olympic gold medal swimmer. Lenny, this is not the first time we've talked, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you doing this.
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you reaching out, and would love to. Looking forward to sharing, some of my experiences. And
All
Jen,
right.
good to meet you again,
I'm
and look
guessing none
forward to
include
our
Kevin Hart and
conversation.
Conan, though, huh?
No, but he raced against the biggest names ever.
Well, I also don't have a gold medal, so I
That's
mean,
true. Not yet. There's never too late.
I think it's too late
Exactly.
for
That's
me.
what I always say. It's never too late.
Oh God.
All right, Lenny, let's start with you. So, as an Olympian, you went up against the best of the best in your sport. Where do you go internally, whether it's emotionally or intellectually or spiritually or just physically, to get the most out of your body to perform?
Well, I think for me and my experiences, it was always about appreciating what I did. That it started with that. It started with the fact that I had the talent to be at this level, but I also had the work ethic, and I never took that for granted. I never took for granted the journey that it took to achieve the level of being at the Olympic Games and competing against the best in the world. So every single day that when I train, I respected the process. I respected the people around me, starting with my coaches as well as my teammates, and that brought out the best in me every single day when I went through the process and went through the grind. So when I came to competitions, and when I was in the starting blocks racing at the biggest competitions in my life or anywhere, I had the confidence knowing that I put in all the work that needed to be put in to be able to not just compete but to win.
Amazing. Yeah, it's got to be a full journey, as you're saying, and I think that that moment is, when you get into the pool, hopefully the training right is already there, obviously, or you wouldn't well, you certainly wouldn't get that far, but you got to be confident. I
Did
once
you?
heard, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
no, there's a story once of this woman who was qualified for the Olympics for a country, and she wasn't going to win, and they knew that, and the country wouldn't send her, and she was telling me she was upset about it. But I was like, that everyone I believe who goes to the Olympics believes, and at least that there's a hope that they can take home a medal, or they're probably not going to at least compete. It's not just about, especially in America, it's not just about representing your country. It's about hopefully coming home with a medal. Correct?
Well, I think when you talk about America specifically, it's incredibly competitive just to make these Olympic Games. Like in our sport, for example, in swimming, it's harder to make the U.S. Olympic team than it is actually at most time winning the Olympic gold medal. because it is so competitive. And only top two athletes in each event get to go to Olympic Games. And, you know, in our sport, we're talking about hundreds of a second that make a difference between having that opportunity or not. So, you know, when you make the Olympic team for the US, you obviously have expectation that you have an opportunity to win a medal at the games. And that's how everyone has that state of mind when they go into the games, expecting that they will compete for a medal.
Jen, did you have something to add?
I was smiling thinking about you because I thought, I wonder if he had like any games he played with himself or any mental tricks that, like during workouts, if you were swimming and you doubted yourself, like even just a mental moment of doubt, physically you're going, that you would add a lap, or you created these kind of an infrastructure of confidence around it. Because, you know, think of like, oh, I would think that the people that have those weak moments in their mind create a sense of concern or doubt at that kind of a big scale. So I'm just wondering if you had any things that you did that people wouldn't normally know about.
I don't, you know, for me personally, I always, and you mentioned, you know, there's always doubt. You know, I think we as humans have certain, you know, and elements of doubt in anything that we do. But I think what I've always, you know, was good for me personally through all my experiences, that I've always tried to focus on the positives. I'm a very positive person. And even in the worst of situations, I've always looked at something positive. You know, obviously, when you're in the training grind every single day for years, you're gonna have a lot of bad days. You're gonna have moments where you're extremely disappointed. But in every bad day, there's something good that you can get out of it. You know, maybe I wasn't able to make those time intervals during training, right? But I can stay 5 extra minutes and work on a couple of my turns so that I can just perfect that part of my race. So if you're willing to challenge yourself and if you're willing to look for positives, you build on those positives as you continue to, you know, pursue your dreams. Because at the end of the day, when you get to that level of the Olympic Games, you can't have any doubt. You can't question yourself, because
Right.
especially in our sport, I mean, like I mentioned, you're talking about hundreds of a second. So that little doubt could affect your performance, and you want to try to eliminate that.
Hmm.
So, Jen, I want to come to you. You instruct athletes the most out of their training. How do you help someone else dig deeper into what they need to do?
When you say someone else, what do you mean?
So, someone you're training. So, it's one thing to
Oh,
mentally.
like my own personal. How do I encourage someone else to find it?
Yeah, which is very different than going internally. You know that
Yeah.
you coach someone through that.
You know, it's funny. I like to say this, and I say it with a smile because, you know, I tell people you're not special. We all, just as Lenny kind of said, having doubt is part of being human. You're going to have moments of weakness. You're going to have moments of questioning. You're going to have moments of distraction. And I think what I try to do is help minimize distraction for people so they can get clear on what's really important to them. And right before we started this recording, you know, I had said, oftentimes what I do is I create almost like a short-term carrot, something to go for. I mean, weight loss for your wedding, weight loss for a reunion. You think about, oh, I want to improve my mile time in my half marathon coming up. These are small carrots that are measurable, so there's progress, there's accountability, we have touch points on them. But in the process of reaching those touch points and getting to those carrots is where you start to learn about yourself. And that's where I ask and I work with people. It's less about like yelling and getting them motivated and you can do it. Anyone can get up for a day. Anyone could push it, you know, for those, push through those hard days. It's a matter of what you're willing to learn and see about yourself through that process that starts to change the behavior. Because in the beginning, maybe they're getting through hard days for me as their coach. They're like, well, Jen's here. I don't want to let her down. I'm going to do it. But eventually it starts to evolve and they're going to be then doing it for themselves. They realize that they care about their performance. As Lenny has said perfectly, like there is pride in what he did. He knows his work ethic. He knows how important that is to him. Regardless of the gold medal, it's part of Lenny's legacy is to have that in place. And that, once you take care of the process, the gold medals in whatever category will come.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle that you see, Lenny, with swimmers that you coach now, Jen, with people you coach? What's that biggest obstacle that others face, or that you even face? Like you said, you've put the carrot out there, but it's not just a straight line to the carrot. There's got to be bumps. There's going to be twists and turns, forks in the road, however you want to phrase it. What have you done to overcome that, and what maybe something both of you have encouraged others to do?
Jen, go ahead. You can.
Want me to go? Okay. And this is my sweet spot. So it's a deconditioning process. People think I've got to get it right the first time, or I messed up my macros today, it's over, or I missed my time trials that day. That's it. I'm not gonna be able to make the next competition. I won't be able to meet my next time. We in life are not linear, and you hear this a lot, and it's such a cliche, but that's what makes it so true. 2 steps forward, 1 step back is still progress. When you go through ups and downs, we're still going up. And I think that's the deconditioning, that the downs are somehow bad, is just not the truth. It's a great Mark Twain quote. It's not what you know. It's not what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know that just ain't the truth. And you just think that, like, oh, this is bad. This is it. This is over for me. The number one thing I tell people, I'm like, you can't mess this up. If you just keep showing up, you keep trying, learning, going forward, you will progress forward. That happens on its own. I don't have to make this happen. All I have to do is get up every day and show up again. That's literally it.
Yeah, I will second, what Jen is saying, because I think there's a common trend in terms of how you work with people and how you motivate them, and how you clearly paint to them that this is a journey, that you will have ups and downs, and that is normal. But the staying focused and trying to continue to move forward is the only way to break through those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, I use this analogy quite a bit, that the only person that you can be true to is the person when you look in the mirror, that looks back at you. That's the only person that you can be honest with. And if you can be honest with yourself every single day that you're doing the best that you can, that's all you can ask of yourself, and you're going to continue to search forward. And that's the mentality, that's the attitude that I want everyone that I work with to take when they experience those challenges and not getting those immediate satisfactions, where I think in today's society people expect something happening right now in the moment, and it's just it's a process.
It is. I will tack on one thing too. It's honesty, but I think it's a level too of being curious and curious with yourself without judging yourself. So if there are setbacks, or if you're seeing something, you're looking in the mirror, you're like, wow, I have been putting in 80%. Okay, why? What's going on in my life? How am I feeling? Where's my incentive? Sometimes it's an infrastructure question. Sometimes it's something deeper. But if you don't have the courage to ask the question, or you're not kind enough in the answer, it stops you at that point. And I think that becomes a really nice combination of, like, just be honest, ask the questions, be curious, and then do it without judgment. Because I think that we are literally the only one in our way.
So you both talked about this before we started recording, which was we were joking about Lenny going back to the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I said Dara Torres went back and still younger. I understand that the body sometimes has limits. So I think that's true. But even Michael Phelps, I don't know that he'd be able to do what he did, or certainly Mark Spitz would not be able to do what he did today as he did back then. So at what point also are there times in which either of you have said enough I cannot dig any deeper, or you don't encourage the person, like, you've hit your goal and your plateau and you're just done? Or does it morph into something different as you mature, and whether that's physical or just mental, that maturity sort of allow you to sort of curb it or change the direction?
Well, I think it's it's each person individually. It really comes down to what is your purpose and what you're trying to accomplish. I think at the end of the day, that's the most important, at least the way I see it, that's the most important question to ask. Why are you doing it, and what do you want to accomplish? And in every walk of life, I mean, there's obviously a path that you take to accomplish that. If we're talking about athletics, if we're talking about fitness, if we're talking about a healthy lifestyle, then that becomes a lifestyle. And I think it's important to continue to evaluate why and your purpose all the time, so you can continue to strive towards fulfilling that why and your goals.
All right.
Yeah, I honestly, my only tactical is that I think there are perceived limits, and we do break them, and we make new ones, and that's the reevaluation process that I think Lenny's talking about. So do I think people ever hit their limit? I'm like, whoa, you're there. You can just stop. It's like, oh, congratulations, you have started into another level. It is the endless game of Mario Brothers,
Right.
right? It's like there are infinite levels, and it's how far do you want to take it? And sometimes I'm like exhausted by that ideas, and other times I'm thrilled that I have the time to do it. That I am here getting a chance to work on those levels every day in my life. So perceived limitations, sure.
Jen, it's hilarious that you went to Mario, because that is actually where my head went to.
Oh, I was like, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about training and practice, which are both incredibly important to both of you. You don't just go into a competition without it, and you certainly have to have repetition if your body's going to train for whatever you're training for. So what is the first step that has to happen for someone who is hesitant? Jen, do you get a call from someone who says, I want to change? What is that first thing you say to them? Or Lenny, when you're working with a swimmer who says, I want to go to the Olympics, or that's a goal of mine, what's your first piece of advice for someone to begin that process of digging deep?
I mean, my answer might be very different than Lenny's, because we're talking about sports versus just standard, movement. I mean, it's just to start. It sounds remedial, but as something as simple as walking, as stretching in your house, we have lost this this level of physical literacy. I think we have it when we're children. It's very second nature. I know my parents enrolled us all in like park district gymnastics classes, like walk on the beam, carry the carpet square, hop like a bunny. I didn't know it. I was having a blast. I was being a bunny, but in the meantime, I was having an understanding of spatial awareness, what my body's limits were, what it felt like to fall, what it felt like to get back up. And I think there's been a wave of a reduction of that, just because we've been so much more of a technological community and society, which has its benefits, but obviously has its pullbacks as well. And so for me, I get people that are either trying to get back in touch with that, or have never found it before. So a lot of it is just discovery. It's, again, like I said, stretching, or I mean, literally the things that you can find on YouTube, for 6 minutes worth of a stretch or a yoga flow. And I think sometimes the hard part is I get people saying, I need to lose weight before I can start. They're afraid of looking foolish in the gym, or looking foolish in their home, and not being accepted. And there's no easy answer. You have to just start.
Yeah, Jen, it's funny that you said that, because as my kids are sort of, they're in school, but right now they're distance learning.
What's their age?
Sorry, what?
How old are they?
Kindergarten and third grade.
Oh, great. Okay.
But my mother's a gym teacher, and part of me, the hard part of not being in school isn't just academics. It absolutely is, of course, but there is an element of just like gym and recess and learning the motor skills of and just watching my daughters now. My oldest is taking a little to basketball, which Dad is thrilled about. But and knowing that she's not going to have gym doing that, and so we've been renting like a gym on our own, because I don't want her to lose that desire to play. At the same time, she would be developing some of those just normal skills in gym.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important.
No, I'm not talking like conditioning and, it's like hand-eye coordination, footwork, kinesthetic awareness of, balance. I mean, all of those things. The 10 physical skills are far beyond just strength and conditioning. And that's what people think movement is. It's like, we have all these things to pick from.
Yeah. Lenny, what about you? What about someone who's, really wants to start? Where would you start them?
Well, again, I think I mentioned that earlier. I think you want to, first of all, define what you want to do, what you're trying to accomplish, at least with a level of athletes and my personal experiences is that's really important. Fundamentally, that's the most important thing. And then you have to obviously understand that the process again takes time, and then always trying to just being the best that you can be every single day, whatever that in your own definition of being the best is the most important thing. I always give example, at least my personal example. When I trained years ago, I felt most satisfying when I came home after 2 practices. I fell on the couch and I just couldn't get up. That I knew I had an incredibly productive day because I gave it my all. And that type of a mindset that when I had every single day helped me, to obviously achieve the goals and to be able to compete at that highest level. And when I talk to athletes today, it's kind of the same thing. Appreciate the process, give it all that you have every that particular day, and you feel that satisfaction. Um,
I think it's important though to point out, it's interesting what you just described, Lenny. I'm like, there's no way I would do that now. Like to work that hard. And I know I'm working below my capacity now at 38 years old. I do not come home and fall on I'm like, I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the drive and I don't have the direction. All those things that you said you need to be at this athletic performance, Olympic directed space. And so I think that, from my perspective, working, with just everyday humans that are just trying to get rid of the spare tire, around their waist, they think it's got to be that. They've got to be 2 practices a day, crushed when I get home. You got to think, I've got kids, I've got to get food on the table, I've got my job. And it's like, I think people had to differentiate that what Lenny is talking about is a specific performance-based level of work that is going to get you to those high level, like the highest level of competition you could reach, which is always the hope for any athlete, right? But I think a lot of other people that are just wanting to get started are afraid that that's what it has to be successful, and it does not.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jen. I think obviously she has an experience with people that, I guess everyday people that you need to start and you need to just understand just being active. My experience comes from athletes that are pursuing completely different level of what they want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, Jen, I think it's also important to point out what you mentioned. I think just being active and starting, I think it's important that people become observant how great that feels, how great it feels to them, just what the rest of their day looks like and how they're feeling the rest of the day when they start a day by being active. And I think just self-awareness in your own feelings kind of helps you to get on or helps you to start on the right path.
Because you have evidence. You're like, oh, this does work.
Yeah.
I do feel pretty good. I remember my friend, I had a client for years, and I would get a message from her husband every once in a while, just like, I can always tell the day my wife sees you. Thank you, and it was really sweet. And for a while, I was like, I'm a really good trainer. And then I realized, no, I mean, I am, but that's not why she feels so good. She moved her body. She tried. She created pride in the effort. And, it changed her day, changed her mood, changed her chemicals. It's the movement. So you're so right.
Except only swimmers can eat that many calories and still burn it off, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that you guys like the only people I've ever met who eat that kind of calories are swimmers and wrestlers, because in the short amount of time they're in the pool or in the ring, they are burning more calories than most people should eat in a day. Right?
Yeah. They do. I was actually, before we went on, Jen, I was telling Jeremy I was in Budapest for 6 weeks, involved in a professional swim league. Cool. And we all stayed together in the same hotel with all the athletes, and food was available all the time. And it's been a while since I've been around people that eat this much, but absolutely. I mean, you have like these guys having or ladies have 3 plates that they're just carrying to the table, eating it, and that's fine. They all still got 6 packs, 8 packs,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, a combination of a lot of training and being very young kind of helps with that.
Yeah.
All right. So last question. You both are outwardly strong and impressive individuals in your respective fields. So where are the places in your lives where you need to dig deep? Maybe it's not in athletics. When it doesn't come to sports or training, where are other issues in which you have to sort of dig deep into your soul, into your spirituality, into your emotions to overcome something where maybe because outwardly you're sort of like, you know, so tough where people might not realize that you have to dig deeper in other ways?
It's a really excellent question. It's I think I find it fascinating as I've been doing my own kind of personal research. I'm working on my next book right now, and I find that a lot of times we as humans create what I call like safety measures, right? We create security and stability by controlling situations, outcomes, people, our bodies, all these things for that kind of security. But it's in the freedom, in the unknown, in the mystery of your day that growth really happens. And so for me, I struggle to do that. A great example, like every single episode of Biggest Loser, every class I've ever taught in my life, I'll have a piece of paper this big. You'll never see it, but it sits next to my water bottle and it's the workout. I'm like, I need the structure. I need the control. I need to know where we're going. And I can just put it there and I have it. And if I ever feel like off, I'm like, oh, I got it. Okay. And what I'm trying to do, and the hardest thing for me is working off paper, to just trust myself, allow my instincts to be louder than my safety measures, because I think that's where different parts of your life really start to open. I think that's where you start to learn about capabilities you didn't know were there, and that's my greatest work right now, is starting to expand there. And I think if I'll add on, and I'd love to hear what Lenny has to say, is just when you are branded an expert, I didn't do that. Somebody else said I was, because I was on this TV show. And yes, I'm educated. And yes, I've continued to pursue more information and further that. But when you're an expert, now it's like, I better have it. I better know it. I better have the way. And to offer that I don't know something was scary for me at a time. And so I'm embracing that I don't know. I don't have the answers. I have insight and input, but I'm still working at it myself too. And that's I think where my
Yeah.
digging deep for Jen goes.
Yeah, I think, I guess for me, it's actually pretty similar in terms of constantly trying to work on myself through my daily experiences. Obviously, I always try to, it's interesting, as focused as I was when I was trying to compete. When I was competing, it's a little bit more challenging for me to stay just focused when now trying to achieve some of my goals that are more business related. There's obviously, I'm trying to balance a lot between obviously being a business owner, having kids, managing other people. So there's a lot of balance, and at times I struggle with the ability to keep myself focused, but I've always been pretty good asking for help. I'm not, I don't shy away from it, acknowledging my weaknesses, and I look for people to guide me and help me, whether it be someone in a particular field that I know that can help me, maybe just to, I guess, recharge my focus a little bit and put me on the right path, whether it be, my close friends where I can share with them some of my struggles and thoughts, that they can, put me on that right path or check me. I always, I like to be checked, because yes, one thing for me, I've always been willing to accept that, as Jen said, that we don't know everything,
Yeah.
and that we're constantly pursuing it. And a lot of times though, you feel like you you, at least for me, I need to have a different perspective, and I've always been open to people's inputs, and I seek that. And I think not for my own satisfaction, but more just making sure that I'm on the right path. And if I'm I'm sticking somewhere, maybe that someone else can either encourage me to push through it, or maybe look for a different path. I don't know if I answered your
You
question.
did. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think there's one answer. That's a surprise. So I'm a rabbi. That's not the point of the show. But one of the things is I teach so much about prayer or help people with prayer. And that oftentimes that can be the hardest thing for me. And I love prayer. Like, it very much centers me, when you're teaching and helping so many other people, and when it comes time to you, you're sort of worn down from it. And it can be a struggle sometimes to sort of get your own spirituality up when you're so busy lifting everyone else, or trying, or going from a funeral to then services is not an easy task. You just mourn with people, and now you got to refocus yourself. So I think both of what you're saying is, like, you got to ask for help. You got to have teachers. You got to not accept that even your expertise isn't the be all and end all, or have all the answers. Thank you both so much for your time. This was a great conversation. So great seeing both of you virtually.
Yeah.
And thanks. I appreciate it.
You bet, buddy.
Thank you.